Welcome back, Caymans. Mr. Eicher here, coming at you with another lesson topic about slope. In the previous video, we were talking about rate of change, and rate of change is really the same idea as finding the slope of a line. The slope of a line is the rate of change in the y-coordinates, so the corresponding change in the x-coordinates. When we say change here, in the previous video, I mentioned that in math we use a little triangle to represent change. And to find that change, we're subtracting, as you can see in these, finding a difference. And again, the letter we use for slope is m, so we're doing the change in y over the change in x, which is finding a difference in the y's, and then a difference in the x, and then find a ratio, find a quotient of those. So I want to give you a context about making some money. The following tables show the number of hours worked and the total amount of money a person has for 4 different scenarios. One of the tables doesn't make any sense. Which one doesn't belong? I'd encourage you to pause the video and look at these numbers, these tables, and see if you could figure out which one doesn't belong. Alright, let's look at the different tables. In scenario 1, you have 0 hours worked, you have $0. 1 hour, you have $11 after an hour. 2 hours, you have 22. 3 hours, you have 33. 4 hours, you have 44. So it looks like this person is making $11 per 1 hour. So that's the slope, that's the rate of change. So if you have a job and you tell someone you make $11 an hour, really what you're telling them is the slope. So that looks okay. Let's look at the next one. Scenario number 2. After 1 hour, you have $105. So maybe you started with some money in your pocket. After 2 hours, you have $120. So it looks like you've increased by $15. And then 120 to 135 is $15. 135 to 150 is $15 and $15. So it looks like maybe you started with a certain amount of money in your pocket, and then at your job you're making $15 an hour before tax. So it looks like your slope would be $15 per every 1 hour, and most likely you started with $90. So then after 1 hour, you've added 15 to end with that 105. But scenario 1 and scenario 2, they have different slopes, but still seem like they both belong. Scenario number 3, we have after 1 hour, you have $10. But this also says after 1 hour, you have now $20. How is that possible? So you work 1 hour, and you have 10, but then after 1 hour, now you have 20. And then the same thing happens here. How much do you really have? If it's 30, 40, or 50. So this is a case, if I can relate it back to something that you talked about in the previous lesson, in section 2-2, I believe. You have your hours, and you have the total money. If you have 1 or 2, 1 maps to 10, but it also maps to 20. 2 maps to 30, 40, and 50. Should have made my circles bigger. So this is not a function. It's a relation, but this is not a function. So we'd say this scenario doesn't belong. At least at this point. I haven't looked at scenario 4 yet, but 1 and 2 both are functions, and they're one-to-one functions, whereas this scenario 3 is not a function at all. The reason why I wanted to give you this is just to show you that it's really confusing when things aren't functions. It's really confusing to say, hey, how much do you have after an hour? And you say $10, $20. Someone would say, well, which one is it? And you say $10 and $20, and then they say, I'm done talking to you. Let's look at scenario 4. Scenario 4, you after 10 hours, you have $50. After 11 hours, you have $50. After 12 hours, you have $50. So really, you're not making any money. Maybe you're not working right now. You're sleeping or something, doing math homework, but you're not making any money. So if we have those different options, 10, 11, 12, etc., they all map to the same number. So this is a function. Yes, it's a function, but it's not a one-to-one function. So scenario 4 is different than scenario 1 and 2. So I could understand if you said scenario 4 doesn't belong since you're not working, but at least scenario 4 is a function. It's just you're not working. Doesn't mean you don't have a job. just means you're not working during hours 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I want to connect these to the graphs that they look like. For an equation to have a positive slope would be you're making money. A negative slope would be that you're losing money or spending money. Maybe I'll say spending rather than losing. A zero slope would be like that scenario 4. Zero slope would be, say you have $50 regardless of what time. That is, you're not making or spending money. It's a constant. And then lastly, the undefined slope. An undefined slope is like that scenario 3. An undefined slope would be one like this. So if this is money and this is time, a vertical line like this would be undefined, because this would mean like you have no clue how much money you have. That's because at, say, hour 10, you could have $20, but also at that exact same time, you have $50. But also at that exact same time, you have $35. So you really have no clue. You have all possible money at the exact same moment in time, which doesn't really make any sense. Again, the vertical line here, this is not a function, and it doesn't make sense in this context. So I hope that illustration helps you understand what we mean when we say a slope could be 0, and that is a function that makes sense, whereas a vertical line does not make any sense mathematically or logically. The next two, the third one will be a try this, but the next two, just using that slope formula. So find the slope of a line that passes through the pair of points. M, the slope would be y2, which is b, minus y1, which is also b, over x2, which is -5, minus x1, which is 3. I didn't mean to put that little. So we get 0 over -8. 0 over 8 is 0. So this would be a 0 slope, or there is no rate of change. This would be like that scenario 4, where you're not making any money. Time is passing. This is time. This is how much money you have. Time is passing and you still don't have any money. So the slope would be 0. On this question, kind of working backwards to figure out what the value of r would be, but you're provided what the slope is. So we could set up our slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we're going to plug a number in for the slope, which is -4. And we'll plug in our y coordinates, -6 minus -2, and our x coordinates are minus 8. And then we solve this. This would be -4 equals -6 minus a negative would be -4 over r minus 8. And then bringing our work over, to solve something when you have the variable in the denominator, you'd multiply both sides by that binomial r minus 8. So that would be -4 times r minus 8 equals -4. So again, I basically took this and I multiplied it up here. And then we can distribute the -4. We can subtract 32 from both sides. So we get r must be 9, dividing both sides by -4. And you have a try this question that's similar to that. You can pause the video and do it right now so that you can do the try this very quickly when you get there. And then the last thing on this page is find the slope of the following graphs. Number 8 is for you as a try this. But it might take a little while to figure out where they intersect. So right here, it looks like it intersects at 0, 3. And it looks like it intersects right here at 3, 1. So the slope is the change in y. This blue line right here is the change in y. And then this horizontal blue line is the change in x. So if the slope is the change in y over the change in x, The change in y, it looks like it went down 2, and the change in x, it went to the right 3. So our slope would be negative 2/3. You could also do it this way with the formula 1 minus 3 over 3 minus 0, which is negative 2 over 3. On the number 7, it looks like it intersects at 0, negative 4. And it doesn't intersect again until it looks like right about here, 7, negative 2. So the slope is the change in y over the change in x. Change in y looks like it's about 2. This is the change in y. And this one would be the change in x. So the change in y, it went up 2. And then the change in x, it looks like it went to the right 7. Again, you could get that by doing negative 2 minus negative 4 over 7 minus 0, which is 2/7. So the slope is 2/7, positive 2/7. And number 8 is a try this for you. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next video.